Well, Hans-Peter's presentation is a perfect introduction to what I have to tell you about Italy. As you know, oh yes. I will speak about outcomes. I would have liked to speak more about interpretation, but there's not enough time, so I've concentrated on explaining you to some extent what has happened in Italy with the last election. As you know, by the way, this is a publication online on the LUISS website, where you can find for free, it's a booklet, more of the things about Italian election, which I will not be able to tell you here. The Italian election of 2013 has been an earthquake, as you probably know. Italy is an extreme case of the malfunctioning of representative democracy. This is why I find the introduction of Hans-Peter Crisi quite interesting. Look at this chart. The total volatility. This shows you the amount of political change that has occurred in Italy. The last election has been the most volatile election in Italian history since 1944, and the third most volatile election in Western Europe, 16 countries since 1945. Just to give you an idea before I show you the data by the full data set, the PDL, the party of Mr. Berlusconi, speaking of change, these are details on the volatility. The PDL, which is the party of Mr. Berlusconi, lost 46% of its electorate since compared to 2008. The Partito Democratico was not able to exploit the losses of Berlusconi. It lost itself 29% of its electorate. And the Lega Nord, populist party, lost 54% of its electorate. And the winner, of course, as you know, is the Movimento 5 Stelle, who gained 8 million votes. He had nothing in 2008 because he was not running. Monti, the outgoing prime minister, did poorly compared to expectation. This is another indication, quick summary of what has happened in terms of the two-party index. As you can see, dramatically fallen, and this is the index of bipolarism, which is also dramatically fallen as a result of this political earthquake. These are the data for the House and the Senate for the single parties. And the astonishing result of this election, as you probably already know, is that the largest party in Italy turned out to be a party that did not exist as a national party before the election. The Five Star Movement, which gained 25.6. The Democratic Party scored second, and the Popolo di Libertà third. This is the result for the Monti list, 8.3. The result of the Senate are pretty much the same, a little better for the Partito Democratico and a little worse for the Movimento 5 Stelle. However, given the Italian electoral system, which I will say something about shortly, what matters is not just a single party list. What matters is the coalition, and the largest coalition in the House turned out to be Bersani coalition, just as you can see here, but a little over 100,000 votes compared to Berlusconi. Just by 100,000 votes, Berlusconi failed to gain the majority bonus, which would have given Berlusconi the absolute majority of seats in the House. So in spite of the fact that he lost almost 50% of his electorate, he came very close to win this election in the House at least. And because of the coalition, the Movimento 5 Stelle in this case, you can see it comes in as third. The Senate vote are pretty much the same, with little differences. This is the geographic distribution by province of the plurality party, the party with the largest share of votes. And the yellow, as you can see, is the Movimento 5 Stelle. And here then you can see the areas of the country where the Movimento 5 Stelle as a party is the largest party. Not necessarily the majority party, the plurality party. But if we switch to the coalitions, then you see that the picture changes, because we've seen it with the data before. But I wanted to show you this because this tells you an interesting thing. Again, in spite of the fact that Berlusconi lost almost 50% of his electorate, the Berlusconi coalition is still the largest coalition in northern Italy, blue, and is the largest coalition in many parts of southern Italy. The Partito Democratico remain, as usual, confined to its historical base, which is the areas we call the former red area. One interesting piece of data, I have to go quickly, has to do with the, which explains also the resilience of Mr. Berlusconi in spite of his losses. The votes by size of municipalities, this is the size of municipalities, and here you can see the different profile of the PD and the PDL. The PDL, this is the PDL, Berlusconi party, is still significantly large party in small municipalities, but you can see how this relationship, very clear relationship. Whereas in the case of the red is the PD scores much better in the larger cities. Traditional Italy versus more modern, progressive Italy. The problem for the PD is that a lot of people in Italy live in small municipalities. But the impact of these elections, we cannot understand these elections without taking into account the electoral law. I believe that you are familiar, I hope, with with the Italian electoral law, but I will synthesize it briefly. In the House, the system is very simple. The coalition of the party that wins a plurality of the votes gets 54% of the seats, period. And that is why Mr. Bersani, with his coalition that gained 29% of the votes, Mr. Bersani got 54.8% of the seats. The problem is the Senate, because in the Senate we do not have an electoral system. In the Senate we have a lottery. I think Italy is the only country in the world that has a lottery instead of an electoral system for choosing members of parliament. The lottery consists of 17 awards, 17 majority bonuses, because in the Senate the bonus system works at the regional level. We have 20 regions, but the lottery applies only in 17 regions. And because of these lotteries and because of the geographic distribution of the vote that I've shown you before, these majority awards or majority prizes cancels each other out. So the end result is that in Italy we have an hyper-majoritarian electoral system for the House. Hyper-majoritarian because with 29% of the votes you can get 54 or 55% of the seats. But we have a system in the Senate that can work either as a majoritarian system if certain conditions apply, which I cannot explain, or it can work as it did both in 2006 and 2013 as a proportional system. This is why Italy is in trouble. Well, there are other reasons Italy is in trouble now, but the thing is that there's been no clear majority because of the Senate lottery. And you can see it here because not only the center-left did not gain an absolute majority of the seats, but unfortunately, from my point of view, the center-left combined with Mr. Monti, and this was the expectations, combined, the center-left votes combined with Monti seats, do not make up a majority in the Senate, which is 158 seats. And this is the reason why Berlusconi got back into the saddle, and we had until yesterday a grand coalition. Today we have a mini coalition because of the split between Berlusconi and the new formation of his former protégé, Mr. Alfano, who has created a new moderate rightist party. And so the Letta government today is a government supported by a smaller coalition than before. But this is, again, the result of this strange combination of a hyper-majoritarian electoral system for the House and a proportional electoral system for the Senate in a country with perfect bicameralism. Well, I will skip the functioning of, well, maybe I can show you this. This is the results of the lottery for the Senate. These are the regions where the left won the prize, the majority bonus, the majority prize. These are the regions where Berlusconi won. I like to point out that the region where Berlusconi won are the heaviest region, the most important battleground regions. In a sense, the Italian Senate electoral system works like the Electoral College in the United States. There are some battleground regions which are more important than others. You have to win in these heavy regions like Lombardy, Veneto, Sicily. You can see it better here. Lombardy, if you win in Lombardy, you get 27 seats. The second, the runner-up got only 11 seats. Berlusconi won in 4 out of the 5 battleground regions in the Senate, and that's why he was able to prevent the formation of an absolute majority between Bersani and Monti in the Senate. But I have only 3 minutes left, and I'm going to show you about the winner of the winner in this election, which is the Movimento 5 Stelle. This is a very interesting populist party. It's a populist party that has been voted by the young, the more educated people in the country. You can see it here, but maybe you can appreciate it better downloading it. Not only the youngest and the more educated voted for the the Movimento 5 Stelle, but also the most active professional sectors of society have voted for the Movimento 5 Stelle. So the Movimento 5 Stelle is really a catch-all party, populist party, but of a catch-all variety. And the other interesting thing about the Movimento 5 Stelle is the influence of the media in terms of its use of the internet. Here there will be, it's a very interesting case of a party that has used so effectively the media that we can talk about media audience segmentation in the case of the Movimento 5 Stelle. The Movimento 5 Stelle has effectively broken the monopoly of mainstream TV and media in Italy, and this is one of the key of his success. I don't have enough time, and I like to end with a positive note. Women elected in the Italian parliament. And if you look at here, today Italy is better off than many of our EU partners in terms of this particular indicator. As I said, I am sorry that I don't have time to discuss interpretation of these results. I concentrated on the description of the result, and there are some questions. Later we can go into the interpretation of the results. Thank you, and I think I made it within the 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you.